Hi, my name is Diane Bowen of From Blank Pages Patterns, and I want to thank you for watching my video today. I am going to show you how I use the bonus pages in my pattern to help simplify the designing and planning process for planning your Rise Above quilt pattern or project. And this, it doesn't matter how big or small, if you're using one block or if you're using 30 or more or less or whatever. I hope that these tips and the methods that I show with you will help you to feel more comfortable with planning your project and help you to be more successful in creating a project that you are happy with and that you will love, and also that you will enjoy the process of. So my Rise Above pattern is my newest pattern, and it is a hot air balloon pattern, and you can do it with a scrappy background or a simple background. And in the base pattern you will find some coloring pages. So here it shows the simple pattern or background and the scrappy background, and these are labeled, so it shows you which section each piece is on the block. And these are a great tool in helping you transfer what you come up with on your coloring pages onto your pattern template, so that you can make sure everything gets in the right place exactly where you want it. In the pattern there's also more coloring pages that you can use to help you plan. There's a big one or smaller ones for just quick planning, if you're just sketching and want to come up with quick the layouts. There's other pages as well that are great for just kind of starting out and getting your designs down, and then the bigger ones are good as you get further in your planning process, just to really specify maybe more which fabrics you want where, or more detail in your coloring, or whatever you want to do. And these pages are also really great for quilting, planning your quilting design on your pattern. So after you finish your project and you want to figure out how to quilt it, either by machine or by hand or whatever you want to do, you can draw on these and come up with quilting designs so that you can plan that as well, which is really awesome. So in the bonus pages and in this pattern, this is new to my patterns. I haven't done this before in any other pattern that I've made. So this is a new feature and I really love it. But there are bonus pages in the base pattern, and these are all in the base pattern only. The pattern comes with other designs that you'll find, and they don't include these, but they include their own base pattern or bonus page. I'm sorry. But there's one for a simple background or a scrappy background, so you can choose whichever background you want. And then there's also a page with the balloons, so that you have just the balloons right here. And so how it works is you take this and you can either color it before or after, and you can color this before or after, but basically you take the balloon and you cut it out, and then it will fit right inside of there, and I will show you more of that in a minute. So each of the add-on patterns, there are different designs, and they come with their own base pattern or bonus page, just like this, with their design. So there's the herringbone and the log cabin and the horizontal stripe, the geometric heart. These are just some examples, the circus pattern. So they all come with this page, so that you can cut that out and you can use it with this bonus page that is in the base pattern to help you plan. And the reason why I really love this is that it just makes it so much easier to design and plan your quilt pattern, or your project. So what I've done here is in the pattern, the layout is a 4x4 pattern, and in my quilt that I want to do, that I'm making with for the Rise Above quilt along, which you can find that information on my website and learn more about that. And it's never too late to join, so please come join if you want to. It's pretty laid back, but anyway, so what I've done is I've wanted to do a 5x6 layout, because I like big quilts that I can snuggle in with my family and we can kind of all fit in there. Not all of us, but more of us. So I did this, so I wanted it bigger. So I have a 5x6 layout here, and you can see that I just printed out 2 pages. So I have the one page here, and then I just cut out more squares from the other one. I just taped them together. So I have the layout that I want. And then I went and I colored the background, and I want the balloons flying over a rainbow. So you can kind of see that there. And I'm pretty happy with that, how that came out. So then what I did is I started cutting out some of the other balloons. So here you have the flying geese or the diagonal stripe or the stars. I colored those and then I cut them out. So here you can see I didn't fully cut these ones out yet, but I cut them out of the page. I colored a few and cut them out. And then what you can do is then you can say, oh, let's see, where will this look good? And you can kind of move them around and just fill them in until you're happy with the layout that you like. So, and then once you are happy and you say, oh yeah, I really like that one right there on the background, then you can just get some washi tape and roll it up and just put it on the back, and then it'll stick. And then it'll stay in place so it doesn't move after you've kind of made your arrangement and have them where you want them. So, and the other thing I want to talk about too, well, I guess before I go on, but once you do get them where you want them, then you'll want to also take your pencils or your crayons or whatever you've colored with, and you'll want to come in and figure out how you want to color these background sections. So you want to make sure and do that too, so that you have it all planned out, which colors will go where. So in a video that I just loaded last night, it's called The Rise Above Qual, Planning a Large Project. I talk about how you then, after you've planned and gotten everything figured out, how you then take this design and work with your labeled coloring pages to transfer the designs from here, using this as a guide, to your pattern templates and your cutting templates. So you can then plan your fabric placement and start cutting out your fabric so you can start piecing your blocks. So check that out if you haven't already, or check that out after this video. But before I move on, I want to talk about just a few things. So when you are planning your design, it's really important that if you want to have your designs pop and your balloons, say in this instance, to really stand out, it's important that you pay attention to a few things. One of those, the biggest thing, is value. And so when you have dark colors like here, that's a dark value. These are a darker value where the colors are typically are a darker value. A lot of times yellow will be lighter, but it's still a darker value. In this instance, this here, in these areas on the background where I haven't colored, those will be a light value. I'm going to use some scrappy, just white, low volume prints, which are actually low value prints, because they don't have a lot of color to them. So mostly just whites and some kind of grays and stuff that don't have any real color to them. So those will be a low volume, low value background, where this is going to be a high volume or high value background. And so the thing is if I take a balloon that has a dark value and I place it over a dark value background, well then that balloon or the block is then going to blend in and it won't stand out. Whereas if I put it here where it has a darker value over the lighter value background, then it's really going to pop and stand out. And so you'll really be able to see that. And then that's important too when you're creating your blocks, that you have some contrast in your blocks too. So say here if I do a dark volume or dark value background in the balloon, and then I want to do a light value for the stars so that they will pop out, and so you'll be able to see them. And so you can see that I've just left those white in this instance for this example. So, and then here I have a lighter volume or lighter value background with some darker volume for the element that I want to have pop out. So this would be good over a darker value background because it has that contrast in the balloon, so it'll stand out some more. Same here. So this is mostly the white or the low volume, low value background over the darker background. And so that's going to help those balloons pop if I can keep that here. So here's, I have this dark one, so I might want to move that more out in the dark or in the lighter background so it pops. So, and this isn't going to be my final arrangement, but just for this example I want to show this. So another thing to pay attention to as well is also so you have volume or value, which is the light and dark, but also you want to pay attention to contrast, so hue. When you have a color wheel, I don't have an example here, but for an example, so if you look at a color wheel, every color has an opposite color, and that's called the complementary color. And so purple is the opposite of yellow, blue is the opposite of orange, green is the opposite of red. So you can see how, and then it creates that circle, which is the color wheel. So everything has an opposite color. And when you use opposite colors together, then they contrast. So the biggest contrast you'll get between two colors is if you use its complementary color. So the color opposite on the color wheel will add the biggest contrast. So the opposite of blue is orange. So if I do put this up in the orange, then that's going to give me a much greater contrast than, say, if I put it in the purple. It doesn't stand out as much. Or if I put it in this like blue-green section, it won't stand out as much. So I can put the similar values together, but then you'll really want to pay attention to the color contrast that you're creating. Another thing you can do is down here, if you look at the pencils, so if I have the opposite of purple is yellow, well, right next to that on the color wheel is orange and green. And that's kind of a yellow-green. But what you can do is you can use a split complementary color, and that's where you look at the complementary color, so opposite, and then you split it. So the color on either side of the complementary color is the split complementary color. And so then if I have a purple balloon here and I want to put it in orange, well, then that will contrast still more. See, that's kind of in the orange and the yellow, but I can kind of put it there. It'll still contrast more than, say, if I put it in the blue or the purple. It won't contrast as much just because it's the same. Even the red or the pink won't contrast as much because on the color wheel, if we lay this back out again, red is right next to purple, and so is blue. And so those colors contrast the least. If they're, and the orange and the yellow and the green, they'll contrast the least. And so and then your blocks will kind of blend and they'll be muted and they won't stand out as much. So those are just some tips for planning your blocks that you'll want to pay attention to, just to help you so that you get the effect that you want, because it's frustrating when you pick fabrics and they look beautiful together in your pile, or when you pull them out, but then once you quilt them together, then they just kind of blend together. I've done that before and it's really disappointing. So those are some rules that you do want to pay attention to, and know that they will really affect the outcome of your project. I talk about this in more detail on my blog as part of the Celestial Star Quilt Along that I did in 2014, so you can look that up on my blog. It's under the planning your quilt or planning your design. I talk about the color wheel and how those all work together. So you can reference that too if you want to learn more about that as well. So, or you can probably Google color theory and you'll learn all about it. It's really interesting. I really love that stuff, the science behind color. So anyway, I think that's all that I wanted to share. I hope that you find that helpful and that this encourages you and excites you to get started and to kind of plan your design, and that you'll be able to use these and that they'll be useful for you. I know one person was like, oh, I hate the coloring pages because then if I mess up, I have to start all the way over. And I think that's probably the biggest benefit of this method, or these bonus pages, is that if I plan it all out and I have all my blocks everywhere and then I'm like, oh, I really don't like this one right there. Well, if I use the other pages and not these bonus pages, I would have to start all the way over. But here, if you mess up on one block, you can just take it out and then you can go back and color in a new one and cut it out and then put it down until you're happy. If you mess up on the background, but you love your balloons, well then you can just take all your balloons off and then print out a new background and put all your balloons on where you want them and then color your background. So it'll really help, hopefully save you some of that time and that energy, and that you'll also just have fun playing around. And I know coloring can be really relaxing and really fun. So I hope you enjoy, and I can't wait to see what you make. And until then, happy creating and happy quilting.